Are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but puts it instead on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Let us pray. Holy One, source of light and life, you sent your child Patrick to shine brightly in our lives. In his presence, in his words, and in his art, Patrick revealed your glory. Today, sanctify our time together as we remember him who loved you and loved us, and by his very presence and in his work, invited us to do the same. May we have grace in our day and in our lives to remember and to continue Patrick's work to the glory of your name. Amen. Amen. I'm going to invite you back. We share remembrances now from Bill and Tammy and Barbara. And for those of you who have enough light to see, in between each speaker, I invite you to commend with me, commend Patrick to our God. There's a little prayer that we'll use between each speaker. Bill?
Thank you, Dan. I'm a wanderer, so I have to wander. One of my many jobs in life in this valley has been to coordinate all the artists for the Rancho Mirage Art Fair. And, oh God, I don't know how many years ago? 10? Maybe 7 to 10 years ago. My bestest show was Patrick Blythe. And I didn't really talk to him much at the event, but a few words afterwards, and we kind of got along. I liked his work, I liked him. And we made an agreement that we'd get together in a couple of weeks and talk, because I told him what I was planning on doing was starting an art center in downtown Indio for a place where artists can come and do their work, make their work, be creative, share their energies. Well, 2 weeks passed, and I didn't hear from Patrick. 2 months passed, I didn't hear from Patrick. So, I continued with the job that I had at hand, which was cleaning up a building that had been kind of let go for a long time. So about 18 months later, I thought, what in the hell happened to Patrick Blythe? So I got a hold of him. I called him, and he actually answered the phone. And he said, well, I really did want to talk to you in a couple of weeks, but I've been sick. I've had cancer. And I've been sick for a long time. But I'm getting better now. So now let's talk. So I said, great, come on down to this building. And he did, and this is the building that he came to. The place was a shambles. And we walked around, and he was going, oh my God, this place is a pit. I said, I know, but vision, Patrick, vision. And he had vision. And we walked into what is now his studio, and he said, oh yeah, I can work here. I said, okay, you gonna move in? And he looked at me, yeah, I will. So Patrick was the first person who had the courage, the vision, the self-determination, and he always had the talent. And he moved in, and he worked and he worked and he worked to get his studio in place, and ever since then he has been there And ever since then, he has been my source of energy. Just by the variety of people in this room today, Patrick had different groups, different chapters, different fan clubs, actually. But I was part of the art fan club. And yet, we would, in the morning when he got here, because I was already here, because someone had to wash the floors, but I could hear his beeper go off when he opened up his back door. And in about 10 minutes, I'd hear his studio door swing open and swing closed. And then I would hear, "Anybody home?" And we would sit down and we'd have coffee. And we'd talk. And we'd talk about art. We'd talk about people. We'd talk about politics. We'd talk about religion. We'd talk about whatever the topic of the day was that came to our head. And I spent the last week in his studio. Those conversations just came back because his energy's there, and his energy will always be there. He was pretty much of a realist when it came to his work. I'm a very definite, conceptual, contemporary person. But we got along. He never, well, I won't say he never. Every now and then, if I did a piece, he'd go, "Well, what if you did best?" No, Patrick, I don't want a realistic part of it. But I would go in, and our relationship was that I could offer my opinions. They weren't directives, they were opinions. And if he took them, he took them. And if he didn't, he didn't. But it was a give and take. It was a constant back and forth about his work and about what he wanted to do and all the things in progress and things in the future that he wanted to see happen. The drawing that you walk into when you enter this room, that was Patrick's. And that was a sketch for a piece that we never got to do, but it's going to be done. Because one of the last things that he made me promise is that we will do an installation festival in India. And so that is something that I am going to dedicate myself to, is making sure that that installation festival happens, and that hopefully someone, the right one, can make that piece or something similar to it. Because he's going to be part of it. He's there. He's just always there. And no matter how bad he was feeling, he was always there. He was always someone to share, to help, give advice, listen. The man could talk like no one could talk about anything without preparation. Patrick, I'm really jealous. This is not right. But that was one of his gifts. He could go into a group and talk about a subject without even doing research on it, because he was so naturally brilliant that it was always up here. Whatever he had heard before, it was there. And when he needed it, he brought it out. He was just a remarkable, remarkable man. One of the few people in my life that I can say was a close friend and someone I truly love. I was talking about how he worked when he was sick, and when he was sick, his brain was so on all the time, so creative. The two fabric pieces on the wall, he could not let himself be creative. So he went online, he found a website that made clothing out of the images that you came up with. Those are two examples of Patrick's photography that he had clothing made from. Because he had to make, there was that compulsion to make something. He was just the best, absolute best. And there'll never be another one like him. Thank God. Because the really good ones should not be duplicated. And he was a really good one. Just so good. I'm going to tell a story. We would banter back and forth about who we were, where we came from, our cultural heritage, our ethnic heritage. Patrick was an Irishman. There's some Brit in him, but he identified with Ireland, obviously. Me and Barbara have a great house over there. And my background is that I'm a half-breed Mexican, a Polish father and a Mexican mother. And we would joke about that all the time amongst ourselves. Well, on two occasions. Once when we went over to Mayor Holmes's deli to pick up a stainless steel sink. We thought, well, why should we hire someone to do it? Let's just go over and pick it up. So we did. We're going down the street carrying this stainless steel sink that's about 10 feet long, and he's carrying his in, I've got mine. He goes, you know, Bill, not too many years ago, if the word got out that the Irishman and the Mexican were taking a stainless steel sink, we'd be shot. Yeah. And then one other occurrence. He was having a really bad day once, just not feeling well. And he had a delivery made. Well, the delivery guy expected him to get it off the truck. And there was no way the man could do it. So he looked at me and he came in there looked like, I'm going to say something. I probably shouldn't, but did. And he looked at the truck driver, who was a white guy. And he goes, hang on one sec, I'll get the Mexican. He'll help you. We had a great time. We had a great time. But, and we'll continue to have great times. Because his studio is going to live, and his energy is going to live. And I hope all of you come back to visit his studio when we have new creative people in there working on residency basis. Because that was something he wanted. He truly believed in what he did and the power of being creative. And as long as that space is here and I'm here, that's what it's going to be used for. I love it. Just love it. I'm going to become someone else. Michael Petrie. Michael Petrie is an artist, a gay activist, the director of the Museum of Contemporary Art in London. He and Patrick worked on Michael's installation at the Palm Springs Art Museum. And Patrick really, really credited Michael with teaching him so much about the process of being an artist and making good work. When Michael heard about Patrick, he sent me a poem and asked that I read it to you today. for Patrick. It's odd, you know, knowing someone for such a short period of time and yet feeling like they were a long-lost relation who turned up one day out of the blue and had enjoyed life. It's odd to think that they came and brought so much to Libby and are now gone, but thoughts and memories and objects as clear as glass shine on. It's odd holding on when you feel the racing river pull you out, when the tide keeps you from the shore, and so you embrace the force stronger than yourself and flow onward. It's odd to think of times to come and times past, when lightness and beauty were so easily found in the smile of a loved one. In the smile of a loved one, a smile at rest, free.
Thank you. I'm touched beyond belief, and thank you all for coming. I have notes because I knew that I wouldn't be able to stem together coherent thoughts otherwise. So bear with me. They've been repeated many times. I'm going to try to speak them from the heart. The fact that they're written down is just because I can't trust myself any other way. But it should go without saying that I loved Patrick Blythe with all my heart. He's the best person I ever knew, and I was blessed that he picked me. I don't know why he did. He did. But as much as I truly love that man, and I'm honored to stand here and speak a few words today in his memory, I'm sure you can understand that I'm a little bit worried. Because I'm standing in front of a group of his friends and people who oftentimes loved him every bit as much as I did in their own way, as you've already seen. So what in the world am I supposed to stand up here and say or do that's going to add something new, interesting, insightful? I don't know that it can be done. After all, some of you have worked with him or traveled with him, or others may have taken a class with him. And so many more of you most likely had, we've already discussed, a really deeply meaningful conversation with Patrick on the subjects probably ranging from politics to the economy to the Bible to, more recently, the role of women in early Celtic Christianity. If you didn't keep up with that, I've got the books. So, after getting a little worried, knowing I wanted to do this, I kind of had my moment that made me relax about coming here and speaking this afternoon in front of all of you. And I'm going to call this my Abraham Lincoln Gettysburg Address moment. And you're going to say, okay, she's lost it. But no, there's a line in the Gettysburg Address where the president says, the world will little note nor long remember what we say here. Well, the president was wrong. Every school child has learned the Gettysburg Address. But to be honest, I don't really expect all of you to remember what was said here today. It's not realistic, I know that. Memories fade and the words will echo for a while and then they're going to go away. But what I do hope, and I dearly, dearly hope that what you will remember and keep deep inside you will be your own unique, treasured memories of the interactions that you had with Patrick, whatever they may be. And I'm looking at the faces in this room, and I can think of some funny, embarrassing interactions, and I can think of some deeply meaningful interactions, whatever they might be. I hope that those are what you're going to remember today. So, indulge me for a couple minutes here. I'm not going to regale you with funny stories about living with my husband, because I couldn't pick. There's no way. We were blessed. So I'm going to take a little bit different tack, and I'm going to try to take the next couple minutes to remember some of those small truths, those inherent characteristics that made Patrick such a unique and special person. Now, you may not agree with everything I'm going to say. You may think that I missed a thing or two, or I got things in the wrong order, but here goes. Truth number one. Patrick was ridiculously smart and remarkably curious. If something interested you, I promise you that 1, 2, or 10 deliveries would show up on our doorstep from Amazon, who, I must note, was also taking a day of mourning today in honor of their loyal friend and customer. Because the man would read and read and read. Bill said he was amazed at how he could just pull things out just because he was always learning, he was always reading. And he remembered, he was able to reflect on what he learned. He didn't just read, he could use it. And his enthusiasm would rub off on others around him. That was always what was most remarkable. I remember, here is a brief story. I remember about 20 years ago, Patrick and I were lucky enough to take a safari to East Africa. It was one of those dream trips of mine. Everybody in our group, we go on a safari in the group, everybody in our group wanted to see the big animals. They wanted to see the elephants and the lions and the cheetahs and the rhinos. Patrick, being Patrick, was looking for birds. He had done his research. He knew what to look for. He wanted to see a hornbill. He wanted to see weaver birds. Before he knew it, everyone in our group was looking for birds. They had no idea that birds could be so interesting, so colorful, so worthy of searching for. So there'd be somebody in our bus saying, "Look, there's a lilac-breasted roller in the tree," while there'd be giraffes over here. Truth number 2. Not surprising for somebody who was so smart, Patrick was funny. Not life of the party, center of attention kind of funny, of course, but a sly comment or a dumb pun where he would kind of glance at you out of the corner of his eye and he'd like try to see if you were getting the joke while he wasn't trying really hard not to laugh himself. Truth number 3. Patrick was kind, he was nice, and he was generous. On first glance, those may not seem like the most exciting words one can use to describe someone. They almost sound like faint praise until you reflect on the times in which we now live. In a world oftentimes filled with hate, ridicule, and name-calling, Patrick was an island of nice. Truth number 4. Patrick worked so hard. He really never rested. He was obsessed. But he was raised in really humble circumstances. And he didn't dwell on that. He didn't ever ask for sympathy because of it. But from a really young age, if he needed or wanted the basic necessities of life, let alone small luxuries, he had to work for it. So he worked in cornfields and he painted neighbors' garages. He was a car hop at a drive-in, but I don't think he wore the roller skates. He welded snow blowers and he built lawnmowers. And all of that work had a reason, and that would be, in part, truth number 5. While I don't think he would come out and necessarily say, I know Patrick believed one of his highest callings was to be a good provider. Not just to me, but to the whole family. I mentioned those early blue-collar jobs, which of course led to the white-collar jobs, that some of you might be more familiar with. A.G. Edwards, New Community College, and St. Margaret's Episcopal Church. Those were the means that allowed him to support his family, and nothing was more important to him. He loved his 3 children, Nathan, Elizabeth, and Ben, with every fiber of his being, and if he was asked to describe them, he always, inevitably, would just say that they were perfect. He was so happy to see those kids grow up, go to college, marry, and raise families. He really, truly thought that they all ended up improving the gene pool from which they came. Of course, with the kids raised in financial security, reasonably assured, Patrick finally had the means to return to his first love, not me, art. So that leads me to truth number 6. Patrick had the soul of, wait for it, a poet and an artist. Okay, that seems like the most obvious thing I could say right now, given the circumstances and the setting. But let's think about this. He wasn't an artist when I met him. The signs were always there, I suppose, and I should have seen it coming. I knew from the earliest of days in the absolute infancy of our courtship that he was something of a poet. He would write me lovely letters and send me funny cards, the kinds that were blank inside. He would add really irreverent captions inside. It was pretty, I can't repeat most of them, but they were pretty funny. And I always thought that Patrick should probably write a book or a blog. I honestly thought that that was his first skill. He didn't, but I did delight in how he expressed himself on Facebook, just like I know a lot of you did. It was pretty eloquent. Social media side, I need to say though, for the record, that Patrick's native language and his highest art form was actually PowerPoint. Anyone in the room who has ever attended one of his classes or lectures knows exactly what I'm talking about. The man loved his audio visuals. Don't leave home without it. Truth number 7. Patrick Blythe was a really lousy dancer. Not really important that you know that right now. I just thought I'd keep it real. And of course, he used to try to explain that away by saying he was Amish. He wasn't. Truth number 8. Patrick was always growing as an individual, as an intellect, and as a soul. He would be the first to tell you that he was not an authority on God or religion, but he was a joyful, faithful pilgrim who enjoyed the exploration. He was thrilled by the calling to be part of the Peace and Reconciliation mission of Coventry Cathedral and the community of the Cross of Nails. One of the last, as yet unrealized projects that Patrick was coordinating involves having artists from other areas where walls divide us, Northern Ireland or the Holy Land come to mind. Come together, have these artists come together to work on art installations to unify and move all of us past walls, to find common ground to share, rather than reasons to remain separated and rooted to the past. Truth number 9. Patrick claimed to be something of a hermit, but in reality he was the most outgoing, shy man in modern history. He knew that to be successful as an artist, especially starting when he did, that he would need to meet, work with, and learn from other artists. He did just that. I'm not going to mention names because I'll forget somebody and I'll feel really horrible later, but he connected with some of the most important artists working in glass in particular. He took classes, as Tammy mentioned, at Pilchuck Glass School where they met, and he completed residencies in Ireland and Scotland. And he benefited in innumerable ways from these relationships, as well as from the relationships he formed with members of the local arts community, including the City of Palm Desert Public Art Program, the Palm Springs Art Museum, and Sunnylands. Of course, Coachella Valley Art Center and the City of Indio were particularly near and dear to his heart. This was his home. He wanted nothing more than to see a thriving and nurturing environment in which artists could work, take root in this city. So that brings me to the final truth, upon which all other truths are based. Patrick was a passionate believer in the power of collaboration and conversation. I alluded to it as we began this list of truths a few minutes ago. I hope each one of you has a favorite moment to recall when you realized you just had a conversation with Patrick, and whatever the subject, whether you agreed or disagreed, you two really connected about something. Patrick could talk to anyone about anything, and he loved doing it. I took him on a Michigan roots tour 2 decades ago, my roots, where he met my mother's cousins, Gladys and Gordon, for the first time. They lived on apple country, on property that had been in the family for generations. My family. And I repeat again, my family. So Patrick immediately started talking about farming with them. It was like I wasn't even in the room. But rather than being disheartened by that, I look back and I now realize it's the moment where I realized how special Patrick was at being with people exactly where they live. Most recently, Patrick has ascribed to a philosophy that offers up an alternate translation of the Greek word for word, logos. The expanded translation includes the concept of conversation. That then potentially rewrites the Gospel of John to say, in the beginning was the conversation. That was Patrick's theology, and it's a pretty good way to be remembered. Thank you.
To each of these little introductions, I ask that you respond, we remember him. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. At the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. At the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember him. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. I'm going to offer a blessing, and then Bill, if you'll give us instructions about what we go and where we go from here. So let us pray. May the God of mercy, who is well acquainted with grief, bless us with gentle comfort and healing for our sorrows. Amen. May the God who created, by a loving command, all that is, bless us with a creative spirit and a profound joy in sharing. Amen. May the God who commanded light to shine in the darkness, who started the conversation actually, may this God bless us with light enough to illumine the way for ourselves and others. Amen. And Bill? The soul now bring out in joy to you, the living God. Tammy?
Hi. I'm Tammy Coatsworth, and I met Patrick about 9 years ago at Coachella Class School. And Patrick and I and another friend, Brian Berman, were the oldest students on campus. Coachella was kind of known as a little bit of a party school. And so, because we were the oldest ones there, the three of us, it seemed like we were always the first in the cafeteria to have coffee in the morning, while everybody else was sleeping off their hangover. And because of that, we sort of formed a bond, and we were in the same class together, Richard Blythe's class. And I remember, this is crazy, I had gone to Coachella on a scholarship, and it was the first time that I'd really been able to break out as more of a professional artist. And I was really insecure. And at one point, I was supposed to meet my scholarship patron. And I was so incredibly nervous and anxious and didn't quite feel deserving of the scholarship that I had received. And Patrick and I, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say this guy? I don't know. And he'd given the scholarship in this late life scene and, had these high expectations for me, the recipient. And Patrick, bless his heart, was like, you're fine, you got this, it'll be great. And anyway, after Coachella, it was like a 10-day class. And like I said, we kind of bonded and ended up talking a lot together over the years, the months after Coachella. And I think felt sorry for me and thought of me as like his little sister or something. And I invited him up to my studio. He was invited down to his studio. We ended up taking more classes together, and we co-taught in other cities. We taught in Houston. We taught in Idaho, where I live. Oh gosh, I would come down here. How many? Every winter, every chance I got in the wintertime, I would be down here. It's like, oh, free room and board and College Street. So, and then, you know, the same thing, when Patrick would come up to my studio, he always had these grand expectations, like grandiose visions. And I remember one time we nailed a big sheet of canvas to the 6-foot wooden fence in my backyard. And we took these tempera paints and put them on these homemade squeegees and did these big squeegee drawings against the fence. And, you know, we'd stand back and look at it in collaboration and think about, you know, well, maybe it needs a little more red here. So he'd go add some red. And I'd say, you know, more yellow, always yellow. And we did some huge drawings. One time we tacked up a big piece of paper in my house and did these charcoal drawings, and the charcoal is just dripping all over my carpet. It took like 2 weeks to get all that charcoal. But it was really fun, and we had this chemistry that just kind of meshed, and Patrick was always really complimentary, and you know, and sometimes I was complimentary too. A couple of the big pieces that he did kind of came out of collaborations up at my studio. The hardest piece, we had been teaching at a studio in Eagle, and to get there we would drive these side roads where there's a lot of agriculture and stuff, and we'd come back to my studio and get to play out and do some just kind of maquettes, really. And part of this actually came from that, and it just sort of grew and compounded, and he refined it a little bit and stuff. And then when he was ready to have bronzes made, he said, let's do them up in Oregon. So again, he'd come up to my house, and then we'd drive up to Oregon to the foundry to have the bronzes made. So it was just good. And the reconciliation figures, too, came, sorry. It was fun. The reconciliation figures came from that same collaboration where I was working on part of it, and Patrick was working on part of it, and all of a sudden he looked at him and he said, well, these kind of go together. And I was like, okay. And so after he left, I had the figures, the little maquettes there that we had worked on, and I thought, well, these kind of creepy, so I threw them away. And a couple days later he called and said, do you still have those? Can you send them down? I said, no. But anyway, it worked out because he ended up making his own version, and we did other collaborations and kind of moved on it. We made big 4-foot-high wax ones here not long after we moved into the studio. And I don't know, there was just so many art projects. The hardest part, I think, is that there was so much more in the works. And Patrick just had these humongous big dreams, and there was always something bigger that he wanted to do. He wanted to do huge installations and huge big sculpture projects, and it just, you couldn't get it big enough, you know. And I was lucky enough to travel with Patrick just this last July, and we went around England and went to a bunch of monasteries and abbeys and stuff. And we were able to see some terrific art, some things that he wanted to have seen for a very long time. And we were able to reconnect with some other friends over there. And he kept saying, I'm being called to York. I have to go to York. And I was like, okay. So we went to York, and we were able to meet up with Sarah. And later he said, you know, I'm not sure why. I don't know what I got out of York. And I said, well, we got to see Sarah. So anyway, it was just really good. I miss Patrick. For some reason, you know, we had almost daily conversations when it was Skype or email or instant message or something. And the void there, when you don't have the, anyway, I always think of Patrick in the mornings because that was usually when we had our Skype conversations, and you know, maybe we're getting a cup of coffee or something like that at the same time, or because we're just old and we're morning people and can't stay up past 9. So, but anyway, I miss him terribly. I I loved him like brothers. And there's this huge pool. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
I forgot to mention, and I put them out here so I would mention them. These two pieces, Exile and Harvest, almost everything Patrick did was autobiographical. Exile, the piece on the left, was how he felt when he was first diagnosed with cancer, being removed from society. That's how he responded. And Harvest, which you will see, you saw a version, a larger version as you entered the space today. And there's also his 8-foot bronze version in front of City Hall, which is just down the way a bit. Harvest is about him growing up, gleaning, he and his brother gleaning corn from the fields, shucking the corn in a grinder, and then taking those bags of corn in their wagon to the granary and getting paid lots of money. That's Harvest. Thank you. Great art affects the viewer, affects a human being, changes them, gives them something. By you being here, he was very successful. Let's get through the day. There are little snack things in the rear of the room, and Patrick's studio is open if you'd like to peruse and see. That's where he spent his time, and that's where he worked, and that's where he was truly Patrick Blythe. Thank you.
Here on this table, and we're going to record a lot of pieces that Patrick has done. Some of these others are pieces that are so feel free to wander around. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah.
I taped up my son. I taped up, just go. Let's just go. We need to go.
Oh, of course you are. Say hello. Thank you. was nice to have some nice representation from the city. Lovely, and I'm just Debbie.
Okay.
I mean, couldn't ask for more. So it was very nice of her.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way better than I did.
I had to come up with a theme. You know me.
Oh, it was
I got it right. You know, I can't just let it go. I got to come up with
Bill,
a theme.
it was a really great celebration of our friend Patrick's life.
Thank you. He was a man to celebrate and to remember, and he's still here. He'll be here for a long time.
I felt him here today.
But I'm glad today turned out to be a good day.
It did. Thank you, brother. We love you.
Love you too.